Hello and welcome to today's episode from Rise from the Noise. I am your host, Dr. Mona Ali, and I am super thrilled for my guest for tonight. Her presence, her message, and the method that she holds have transformed the way leaders and entrepreneurs show up and speak with power. From once hiding her voice, she's now commanding global stages. Roksana Zaya is a speaker, mastery coach, an international keynote speaker, and the creator of the Speak Method, which helped coaches, creators, and creatives, CEOs, move from fear to flow in their speaking and in the way that captivates, connects, and converts. She's also the author of Speaker Mastery, and her work is built on more than performance. It's about reclaiming your voice, your brilliance, and your power. Today, we are unpacking what truly makes a message magnetic and what really takes to become a masterful speaker, and how Roxana's unique approach turns self doubt into stage presence. Let's dive in. Welcome, Roxana. I'm so happy to have you here tonight.
Oh my goodness, what an incredible welcome. Thank you, Dr. Mona. I find you to be the most genuine, loving, and authentic human being in the world. You are a force to be reckoned with. It's an honor and a privilege to be on this show with you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I would love the audience to get to know the magic of your work really closely tonight. So, let me start with the question of why is it important to tell real vulnerable stories as a speaker? And I know you always told me about this, but I always felt it like it's so risky. So, why is this important?
Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of people don't have a voice problem. It's more like they have a permission slip problem. So I like to give my clients a permission slip to use their voice because when we get to be vulnerable and transparent about where we've been, people find that relatable. They find that it's something that they can step into, say, I've been there. Yes, me too. And when you share that connection with somebody, let's say you're at dinner or you're having coffee or whatever it might be, and you're visiting with friends and family, and you have a connection, right? Or you go to a movie, a restaurant, and you go, yeah, 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 yeah. I felt that too, right? And you see that instant lean in. They lean in, they're leaning in to listen. They want to know what's next. And so you can overcome your imposter syndrome if you have one, or you can overcome the doubts and the fears and anxiety of speaking for people, right? With people and speaking on stage. You overcome those because you get to have a connection with them. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. And so it's a permission slip issue, not a voice issue.
Oh, that's lovely. And is there a way that we can overcome this fear we have in ourselves to actually be vulnerable without the chatter, that what if this, what if that?
Well, oftentimes, if you're busy thinking about the chatter, if you're busy thinking about what's working, is it landing, how do I look, is there something in my teeth, like if you're worried about that, um, then what it means is that you're more self-reflective rather than in service. And so we always want to speak being in service.
Lovely.
And
Love that.
it's happened to me hundreds of times, especially in the beginning of my career. My voice would shake. I'd be out of breath. I would be up there and I knew what to say, but I would have so much anxiety and nerves that I would sound, my voice would, would shake. And then I would forget my words. And the most uncomfortable portion is when I felt out of breath because I couldn't say what I wanted to say because I was out of breath. And that was the biggest thing for me. And and then I would leave the stage and or leave the call or leave whatever the podcast, whatever it was. And I'd be like, Why? I knew what to say. Why'd that happen? And so when you remember to speak being in service, to be there for someone, you're there to transform their lives, right? And in turn, when you give more than you ask for, you get everything you want. You probably have heard that, give first and you shall receive. Right?
Yeah.
And so when you give love, you give attention, you give transformation, you give change, you're giving information, whatever it might be. When you give and be in service of, then that helps to calm the nerves.
Mm, I
Does
love
that make
that.
sense?
A lot. And actually, I think I and many of our listeners can relate because most of us in the beginning of our career, we were like that. Some of us, I know that when I started working with you, I was so much like still like that. So yeah, that's brilliant. And this drive me, I think, to a more or a deeper question is how can someone speak with confidence without sounding that they have rehearsed or they are
Right.
salesy?
Well, that goes back to the speak method then, right?
Yeah.
So, um, as you've encountered, so when people, speakers, implement the strategy, then it flows naturally. We talk about the story. We talk about how to use your body, how to use your tone, your tempo, the pause, how to use hand gestures, how to engage the whole entire human, right? The whole self. It's not just about a slideshow. It's not just a PowerPoint and handouts. Like there's a whole other experience happening. And when you utilize the formula, it becomes, I mean, you have to tell me how your experience was, tell the audience, but I will say that all of my clients will say the same thing. They feel grounded. They feel natural. They feel, um, you know what else they feel? They
In
say they feel lit
flow.
up.
That's how
They
I
feel as
felt. I am
though,
in the flow.
and also excited, right? Like
Yes.
lit up and energy because it's landing and it feels authentic because it is authentic. And that's the formula is just easy peasy. Implement and off you go. It's like baking a cake.
Well, you make it sound so easy, and I think everyone now is so interested. How does this work? All right. And I wonder now, for the audience listening to us who feel like their message matters a lot. Like I know when I approached you at first, like I know I have a message. I know my message is so important, but their voices still shakes in this message. Like
Mhm.
what's one step that we can take, they can take, our audience can take, the listeners can take today to move toward the mastery of speaking?
Well, let me start by asking you a question then, or the audience listening as well. Who is going to miss out if you stay silent?
Oh, a lot of people. Big
Who's
part of the of the human being.
the whole world, the population, the people that need your service, that people that need your work, the people that need your experience, the people that have are looking for an answer, a solution. Who is going to miss out? Could it even be you? If you don't use your voice, would you miss out? Would
Yes.
you miss out on touching that life? Would you miss out on touching your own life and making a difference?
Wow. That's I think I feel goosebumps hearing you saying this already because it is very true. Every time I speak my truth, I feel like I am reuniting with my soul. So,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. And so the steps, the speak formula, it's just a recipe. When you make a cake, you can use brown sugar, white sugar, coconut sugar. Like you can change it to make it your own, but you still need to have that sweetness, right? You still need to have the the eggs and the oils, and people use different kinds of oils and people use different kinds of eggs.
Yeah.
And so you can, it's just a formula. And when you use it to embed your personality into it, that is what takes for people who have a voice, who are shaking, like you said, who know they have a message. And it's there's so microscopic tweaks.
Mm.
Like you just shift it. You've experienced it. You just shift it. It's like your whole world opens up. It becomes like the heavens part, and you're thinking, well, that was so easy, and you didn't realize it because we don't know as human beings, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's on the other side of something until we look at the other side. And so all I do is hold up a mirror, help people understand what's on the other side, give them a few strategies and implement that. And it's like, you're off to the races. Look at
Magic.
what you're doing now. Look at what
Magic
you're doing.
happened. Magic happened. And you mastered the stage. That's actually what happened. I am so happy
Exactly.
with this. Like, I feel like we are, like, everyone now listening would probably be keen on having even a glimpse on the speak method. So let me ask you this. First, what it stands for, the speak method, and if you can walk us through just one part of that, like for example, in a high stakes presentation or a live launch, someone doing, what is one part that can illustrate the framework?
Okay. Well, let's just dive into it really quick. So, the SPEAK method stands for S is story system. Now, a lot of programs out there, a lot of coaches, they talk about the story. Like, what is the story? And then it's kind of like a movie that just ends abruptly. And then what? So you have a story. Well, there's actually a story system. How you tell the story, where you tell the story, and that is correct, where you tell the story, where you tell the story based on either the Zoom room, so I could be different parts of the screen, or your body can be tilted, or where you stand on a stage. And so where you tell your story, how you tell your story, the timing, and the fact that you want to not close the loops in your story until a certain point of your whole entire presentation. So there's a story system. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it does.
And then which you're learning, right?
Mm.
And then which you have actually mastered it. So after that is P, which is presence and performance. This is probably one of my favorite parts because it accumulates all the things that I've studied and mastered in my lifetime. So if we were to look at presence, that would be your um, how do you stand on stage? Where do you stand on stage? Your performance would be hand gestures, body language, nonverbal communication, the way your feet point, the way your hands held. For example, I'll give you a quick tip. Did you know that a lot of speakers speak with their hands down by their side? They just leave their hands dangling down. And subconsciously, that means interrupt me. What does
Oh,
interrupt me? If you're an audience, that means I have permission to zone out, think about my to-do list, or if it's in a one-on-one conversation, it means I can interrupt and say something. So we don't want to speak with our hands down. We're sending the wrong message. And
mm,
so when you learn these different things, that's inside of the P of performance, of presence and performance. And so then E is electric engagement. And that's where you get to play with your voice, the tone, the tempo, power of the pause, which is my favorite one because that's like where people want to lean in. Like, what's next? It's the cliffhanger, it's the Jaws musical, dun dun, and then there's a pause.
yeah.
Dun dun. And then there's a pause. It's like, what's next? Where's the shark coming from? Like, you want to think about that. And not that we're going to attack anybody, but that we're
Creating
we're
excitement and engagement.
creating. Exactly. And so, and then parts of your script, parts of your presentation, parts of the things that you want to say, if it's on paper, I teach you how to mark it up,
Mm,
where to breathe, where to pause, where to speed up. And then when you memorize where in your body you speak from, you memorize without memorizing. Like I can get you off of your paper so fast, it'll blow your mind. And then A is audience alignment. That's where you have to really pay attention to who's in the audience. Is the audience made up of entrepreneurs? Are they made up of single moms? Are they made up of, you know, birthing doulas? I spoke at a birthing doula convention. That's why I bring that up. And you think, what does that have to do with anything? Because you can model your presentation to any audience when you understand audience alignment. And so the other part of that is building rapport. In order to build rapport with your audience, you need to understand that they have different learning styles, right? We have the kinesthetic, audio, visual, and audio digital, which are the logic brain, people that want to know all the details and they take time to process, right? And so when you understand that, you can embed certain language to get enrollment from the different learning styles. Because what happens as speakers is we speak from our lingo, our jargon. We use it all the time. You know, I have a friend who is from the East Coast, and she says, "Leave it go." What is leave it go? I don't know because I'm from the West Coast. We say let it go, and
Mhm.
so you have to understand people have different language. They have different learning styles, and when you do that, you can you can draw in all the different styles that are not your own. So we want to speak in the audience language, not in our own lingo. And then Kang, this is fun. This is super fun. This is the killer close.
Oh, now I am
Oh,
excited.
killer close. In killer close, a lot of, if you think about it, think back to all the different times you've gone and listened to a lecture or other people, other coaches or programs, whatever it might be, and they say, okay, here's how you stack your offer, and here's how you present your offer, and then you show your offer. And well, this is the part that they get wrong every time. You want to know what it is?
Please.
Do you want everyone to know what it is?
I think everyone is like, please.
Okay, killer close doesn't happen at the end. There you go. That's it.
Oh,
It's not
wow.
happening at the end.
Okay.
It happens in the beginning and the middle and all throughout. There is language that you use. Um, when you have an audience participate in a yes frequency, in other words, you open with a yes question. You ask yes questions all throughout your presentation. You're starting to turn the listener and the audience into being more open-minded, into being more receptive, to being even moving the needle towards a buying decision. And it doesn't have to be buying as in money. Maybe it's buy in to a concept, buy into your um, nonprofit organization, buy into the transformation you want people to have. And that's the thing is we want to embed them with all the tools that we have. We have to create a rapport with them. And through doing so, we create a safe environment where they know, like, and trust you.
Mhm.
And it all begins with yes questions. Now, there's a lot of other things that you're going to do to create a killer close so that by the time that you get to the close, it's already closed. And when you make your offer,
They
it's
already bought it.
they've already bought it before you made it to the offer. Hence,
Oh,
killer close
that's
because it's a
lovely.
done deal.
I can't wait to learn the K. I haven't reached the K yet. I'm looking forward for the K now. Oh,
I know,
that's
right?
lovely. That's lovely, Roxanne. I love how like how simple you explain it and how deep each one of them. And it's like so natural, but we don't really think of any of this when we are putting our, our script and our talk together.
Hmm.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I have one question to close by, which um, when I advertise Liri or announce that I'm gonna do this with you, I get this one repeated and very, very common question, which is because you have a lot of experience in this space, what actually engages the audience most, especially with all the distractions we have now in the digital world?
Mm, that's a really good question. What engages the audience most in this digital world? Let me ask you because this is how I teach my speaking mastery. Okay, this is how I teach. So do you mind? Do you want to play a little game?
Yeah,
I'm
please go
sorry.
ahead. I'm with you.
All right. When you're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, what has you stop?
I stop when there is a picture or a video, sometime of a baby or something that is really pure.
Pure.
Something authentic, something more natural. You know,
Okay,
the
you just
natural.
nailed it. You just
Yeah.
named it. You just named it. I mean, like, this is what's so great about when people come through my program. Like, it's just aha moments. You know the answers, but it's the way I ask the questions, right?
Mm.
And so, if you ask the questions differently, you engage your audience in such a way that they just transform immediately right before your eyes. So, let's sum this up. You said that what stops you is it's something that's natural and pure. Now, if we were to put that into some other terms, some layman's terms, and you said picture as well, you said baby. Sometimes it's an animal, sometimes it's just, a person. So all this fancy stuff that you see out there and wild and crazy, it's like, oh gosh, right? I don't want to deal with that. And what has you stop is somebody being natural and pure.
Yeah.
So imagine you are somebody who's a speaker trying to grow your audience, trying to promote your product, your offer, your sales, and you have the fancy cameras and you have the fancy lighting and all that's great. That's great for certain things. I'm not going to deny that. But imagine what it would be like to just pick up your phone and just speak into the camera and say, "Hey, you know what? I just had a really rough day. I just had a really rough day, and I want to share with you something that I learned. And I'm going to do this, in fact, today. I'm going to do this today because it happened to me today. And
Mm.
so I think after this interview, I'm going to let you know that, folks, sometimes when you communicate with people, you don't always speak the same language. We mentioned that before. We know the words, we know the vocabulary, but there's a hidden message underneath.
Mm.
And when you struggle to connect and communicate with people, when you struggle to connect and communicate with people, do you blame others? Do
Most
you look outside?
most people does. I teach people
Right,
not to do that, but most
right.
people does.
Yeah, we say, "Oh, you don't get me. You don't understand me.
Yeah.
You don't this." And so imagine if I was to go on a live, I'm pretending like I'm going live, but imagine there's nothing there. Imagine if I was to go live and say, you know, when this happens, the first thing I do is XYZ.
Mm.
Whatever your offer is. When I'm not feeling well, when I'm starting to feel sick, or when I'm wondering how to build my business, I sit and I look and out and I say, what are you doing? What are you out there doing is not what's going to enroll people. That's not what stops people. That's not what has them engage with you. When you share something vulnerable,
Mm.
something true, something authentic. And there's a difference between true and fact. Let me just
Yeah.
clear that up really quick. I'm talking about when something's true, your truth, right? Because your truth is not the same as my truth. That's a belief system. Facts are proven. Gravity, if I drop something, something falls, right? Gravity. That's a fact, at least on this this plane,
On this
right?
planet.
On this planet. In this atmosphere right here. It's different up there, but it's different down here. But what my point is, let me sum this up for you, is when you speak something natural and pure using your own words that you gave Dr. Mona, and you say that with your audience, you connect with them. It makes them stop the scroll. It has them want to know a little bit about you. Now, there is a formula. You want to follow the formula. You always want to start with the questions and the story system. You still want to do it, whether it's 60 seconds or 60 minutes. You still want to follow the formula, but it's you. People just want you. At the end of the day, they don't want all the fancy stuff.
I totally like I was literally thinking about this today. I'm it's just like you're speaking the words that I've been all day thinking about because of a post I posted yesterday. And since I posted it, I'm having like 50 something messages today because of this post, and I didn't even thought, but it took me a lot of courage to post it because it took me like 45 minutes to be able to actually, you know, click post because it is so me.
Exactly. It's so you. It's so transparent. It's
Yeah.
raw. It's like you took the veil off of your
Yeah.
face and now
Yeah.
look at how many people's lives you touched. They were just waiting, waiting for you to show up, waiting for your client to show up, waiting for that person to say that thing that saves their life, that changes their life, that makes the ripple effect. Like, what are we waiting for? I don't understand.
I couldn't agree more. You said beautifully. And honestly, I like I don't want this to end, but I'm mindful of the time. I know that our time is coming to a close, but it just has been the most lovely 30 minutes, I think, of my day to day. So thank you so much, Roxana. Thank you for reminding us that our voice doesn't need to be perfect. We don't need to be perfect. We just need to be true. You have
We
given
just
us,
need to speak up. Just speak
yes,
up.
and have this deeper understanding of what it means to speak with power and with presence and with truth and with purpose. That's so important.
Mhm.
And I thank you for your time today. I thank you for the depth and the transparency you shared your knowledge and your experience with us today. And to everyone tuning in, your story is your strength. We learned this today, and your voice is your bridge to connection. So don't wait until you feel ready, and you speak now. You speak as you are. You speak the raw truth of yourself. Thank you again. And until next time, I am Dr. Mona Ali, and thank you for listening in. Let's continue Rise from the Noise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So